Hi, for this video we're travelling to a beautiful part of Scotland, so please indulge me in showing you some of the journey. This is the view looking south towards Bridge of Orchy over Loch Tully. Our route took us past Loch Lomond, Rannochmuir, through the Pass of Glencoe and onto Fort William. As the Corn Ferry is undergoing repairs in Aberdeen, we had to drive an additional 42 miles to get round the headland and make our way to Strontein. As we passed the White Quarry ski resort, we had a pretty near thing with a works lorry and I was just waiting for a clash of wing mirrors. Thankfully it never happened. We arrived, paid the site, set up camp and went for a pedal. On the first night we just went for a wee leg spinner along the south shore of Loch Shiel. This road is part of Ed Schutt's route number 23 in his book.
That's cool. We'll wander now.
Our base for the weekend was Sunart camping in Strontein, which was very nice, with the only negative being that the toilet block was a little dated and only had one shower. It was very good value for money though. As I said, we only covered 15 miles, but it did stretch off stiff legs after the journey, and we had certainly earned a couple of pints. It wasn't a very nice day, but we did have a beautiful sunset over Loch Shiel and Strontein. After a couple of beers in the local hotel, it was back to the campsite for Terry's seafood pasta, some of my sticky toffee pudding and for a few drams. Our route for day 2 follows Ed Schutt's Route 24 in his excellent book Gravel Rides Scotland. After a couple of miles we had a steep climb, followed by 20 odd miles of gravel to Glenfinnan, then 35 miles of quiet roads which are fairly flattish back to Strontein. The scenery in the day was quite breathtaking, with the Loch Sheil section absolutely stunning.
So that's where we're heading to the top of that then. This is where we're off to, the top of this hill. A couple of miles time, and apparently it gets very, very steep. That's how Stevie's looking so excited.
If you're enjoying this video, please consider subscribing to my channel and giving it a like. Thank you. If you'd like to try any of these routes, you can pick up the GPX files by following me on Strava at Douglas Gilligan RACC. The sun was out for the climb and the arm warmers were off.
I definitely saw 19. Yeah.
The climb was very steep, maxing out at 22.5%, and the front wheel was trying to come off the ground a couple of times. I didn't get much footage of the climb as it was hard to film. We were treated to a great view of the surrounding hills at the top, so I put the drone up and caught Stevie cresting. Thankfully we managed to complete the route with only the simplest of mechanicals when Terry suffered a loose bottle cage securing screw. The descent off the other side to Pollock was possibly even steeper than the climb that we did, but it was very pretty, if not a little chilly, as it passed through the forest and along the south shore of Loch Sheil. Not long after Loch Sheil, we took a left turn onto the 20-mile gravel road which would lead us along the southerly shore of Loch Shiel and drop us off at Glenfinnan. Initially the gravel road winds through a forest before opening out to reveal the loch, which is surrounded by mountains. This section was the highlight of the day. I think the footage looks pretty stunning, but always feel that it never really does the scenery justice. It's just not the same as seeing it with the naked eye. We were very lucky with the weather, and huge kudos to Terry for both recceing the route earlier this year and picking such a glorious weekend for us to enjoy it. The gravel here was certainly on the chunky side, but the scenery more than made up for it. We are a fair distance from civilization for the first 20 miles of this route, with nowhere to buy food, so travel prepared. Not only was the weather quite sunny, there was also very little wind, so it was great for getting the drone up. We had considered stopping into Glenfinnan village, but the access path was closed and we didn't fancy the detour back along the road, so we decided to soldier on to Corn, where we had planned to visit Ardgour Ale's Brewery. About 25 miles in, we just got off the main road. First 22 miles are very tough, big climb. After about a mile from the campsite, we started to hit a big climb this morning. So after that, big descent, then about, I don't know, 15 miles of gravel. Quite stunning, beautiful. Quite chunky gravel though, quite technical. Right, good on a nice wee tarmac road now, wee single track. So happy days, about 20 miles maybe to the pub. Woo woo! After the bumpy gravel, this little single track road, the A861, was heavenly, with some super smooth sections and amazing views, which initially looked north over Loch Shiel, before turning and looking east to Fort William, then south towards Corn and down Loch Linney. This was also the first time I'd seen Fort William from the other side of Loch Linney. Although this 60-mile route only has 25 miles or so of gravel, it's a tough day, and although a lot of it is pretty flat, you still rack up almost 3,500 feet of climbing. Even though the ferry was off, which undoubtedly increased the traffic in this section of road, we didn't have to stop in the passing places too often. Seeing Corn in the distance was a welcome sight, and we were soon dismounting at the Ardgour Brewery. The shout was pints of IPA and venison burgers all round, and very tasty all was too.
Like a foaming ale.
Yeah. Oh, right up to Glenfin, isn't it?
Yeah. Cheers, buddy. Cheers, Steve.
Cheers. And there's nothing to eat in the way around.
Our wildlife encounter for the day read 1 golden eagle, several grey herons and 1 big white cock earl. Fed and watered, we set off again for the 15 miles back to our campsite in Strontine. The brewery also baked bread on a Sunday, so we popped in again on our way home to pick up some of their beers and some fresh breads. Having now sampled them, I could recommend their breads and both their IPA and their award-winning stouts. By this time of the day, Terry was starting to feel the 200 miles he had in his legs from his earlier trip to Campbelltown this week, so Stevie P and I headed on to try to get to the shore first. We had an amazing day. This is a great route with stunning scenery. There was a wee bit of a climb left towards the end before a descent towards the village. I would thoroughly recommend this area for a visit, and we will undoubtedly be back. Thanks for another fantastic weekend, lads. I'd like to say especially well done to Stevie P over the weekend. Stevie hasn't been on the bike much recently, and he coped admirably with everything the West Highlands had to throw at him. On the ride by the numbers, we covered 75 miles with 4,100 feet of climbing.